McGilvray?
Here, Madison Heights.
Thank you. Jackson?
Here, Southfield.
Nelson?
Here, Waterford Township.
Cabell?
Here, Ferndale.
Gengel?
Here, Lake Orion.
Boone?
Here in Detroit.
Detroit?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And Hoffman?
Here, Rose Township side of the house.
Okay. Did Powell make it here? Loops?
Here in Clausen.
Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Are there any corrections to the minutes of the previous meeting? Well, we don't have minutes from the previous meeting on here.
Not yet.
Okay, all right. Are there any, okay. Next is approval of the agenda. Are there any changes or corrections to the agenda? All right, seeing none, we need a motion. I have a motion by Commissioner Nelson, support from Commissioner McGilvray. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, that motion is carried. Next on the agenda is public comment. Is there anyone from the public who would like to address this committee?
Good morning. You currently have no public in the auditorium or committee room A. There are no callers on the online and no written submission.
Thank you. Then I will close public comment. We move to communications. Under communications is the animal control disposition report for November 2020. So we need a motion to receive and file the communications. I have a motion by Commissioner Nelson, support from Commissioner, who would like to support? Commissioner Hoffman. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion is carried. We move on to our regular agenda item. The first item is acceptance of the Michigan Department of Treasury Public Safety and Public Health Payroll Reimbursement Program additional grant acceptance with a recommendation to the board by Lynn Sonkes. I have a motion by Commissioner Nelson, support by Commissioner Gengel. Lynn, is there anything you'd like to report on this item?
Yes, good morning. This is an additional amount that we're going to receive from the state of Michigan for the Public Safety and Public Health Payroll Reimbursement Program. We initially received out of our, just to give you some history, we applied for it. It's roughly $5.4 million application that went to the through in August, and this is for the local law and local communities that we provide contracted law enforcement services for. And the reason why we had to apply for this is separately is because the communities were not able to apply for this on their own since they contract with Oakland County, and Oakland County received Direct CARES Act funding. So this one was a little bit unusual. This was only contained for the law enforcement community, or the communities that we provide contracted law enforcement for. So we applied for $5.4 million. The state of Michigan received more than more requests than they had funding available for. They had like $200 million for this program. They did an initial award in September for 50% of it. We received $2.7 million at that time. And then they requested that all agencies, our grantees, resubmit updated applications for any adjustments that needed to be made. Now, all of our requests did in fact meet the eligibility requirements. I guess there were several other grantees that included costs that were not deemed eligible. So we resubmitted in December, early December, per the request, and we did reduce our application down to around $4.5 million. And the reason for that reduction was because there were 3 communities who opted to participate in the county's CARES Act funding program, the Oakland Together CVT program. With that updated information, the state then came back and still had requests over and above their $200 million funding source. And so we were deemed to be eligible for roughly $3 million. So we have prorated that over the remaining communities, and this is accepting an additional $307,000 roughly for this program. And with that, I would be happy to take any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Thank you for your report. Seeing no questions, roll call, please.
On item number 1, Commissioners Powell, are you here? Hoffman,
Yes.
McGillivray,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Cavell,
Yes.
Angel,
Yes.
Boone,
Yes.
Lutz,
Yes.
Madam Chair, you have 8 yeas and 0 nays.
All right, motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Our next item is from Health and Human Services, Emergency Management and Homeland Security, 2021 emergency funding for coronavirus pandemic response measures. This is also an item where we have 2 amendments for that. So I have a motion by Commissioner Nelson, support from Commissioner McGillivray. And the 2 amendments for this, Commissioner Cavell, do you want to move an amendment to this?
Yeah, I would like to make move to make an amendment. What at least I've been calling this is like the ad hoc committee. Would you like me to read the whole amendment?
Sure. Thank you.
Okay.
Commissioner Cavell, would you like me to share the amendment on the screen?
Thank you. Yeah, please do, Barbara. Okay, so Commissioner Lubes, is now when I should talk about this, or let everyone read it?
Yes.
Madam Chair, for purposes of discussion, I will second that amendment.
Thank you. Are you ready, Commissioner Cavell?
Oh yeah, I asked if you wanted me to talk or let people read. So, okay.
Oh.
So to talk about this a little bit, the spirit here, so the way that the executive's office handed down this or offered up this $10 million that we're, I guess in no better way of saying this, fronting, because we're expecting to get this money back from the state in COVID relief. So the thought was to allow the commission to be able to have more input and be a part of the conversation more. We're resolving to try and add 2 members of the majority party, 1 member of the minority party from the board, and then have 2 people be a part of from the county executive's office. So have this 5-member ad hoc committee to try and administer this money in an efficient and effective way that also will ideally allow more people to be a part of the brain trust in figuring out COVID.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion on the amendment?
Commissioner, Chairwoman Lubes, this is Sean Carlson, Deputy County Executive. Would you like me to at least provide a background on the catalyst for the original resolution? I don't know if that's appropriate or not at this time.
I would love to hear more information.
Okay, so just working with the health department, and I know Ms. Stafford is on as well as Mr. Hardesty as well in regards to any specific details. But just to give you the genesis and the reason for this resolution, when the coronavirus relief legislation was passed by Congress last December and signed by the president towards the end of the year, it outlined many things. A lot of the news story was picked up on the payments that were going to families, but there was a lot of other parts of the legislation. One of the things that it did, it extended CARES Act spending from December 30th, 2020 to December 31st, 2021. Among some of the other key things is in Division M, Title III of the coronavirus relief legislation. It outlined $69 billion in regards to vaccine distribution, strategic national stockpile, testing and tracing and COVID mitigation programs, mental health funding, NIH for COVID-19 research, among a few other things, and healthcare provider support. 2 particular things of interest to Oakland County was in regards to the vaccine distribution and operations. It's our understanding that the state of Michigan, out of the $9 billion that has been tagged for vaccine distribution, 90 million will be coming to the state of Michigan. Also, $520 million is for the state of Michigan as it relates to testing, tracing, and COVID mitigation programs. In light of this information, we wanted to lean in, just like we leaned in with the commissioners last March when this pandemic was upon us. And we eventually did $16.5 million for PPE. At the same token, we wanted to make sure that we were leaning in. We know that it might take the state of Michigan a few months. If you recall, we all got those distributions of funds. Oakland County received the distribution of funds from the original CARES Act in the middle of April. So did the state of Michigan. But the state of Michigan's grant programs didn't come online until the end of July or August. We have a pandemic in front of us. We want to make sure that as soon as the vaccine are ready to go, that we have a strategy here in Oakland County and we can get shots in arms as quick as possible. So we wanted to lean in, leverage our fund balance. We expect a reimbursement. There's no guarantee. I want to make sure that I'm upfront about that, but we expect a reimbursement to take place of these funds. If you did simple math from a population perspective, that would suggest that we should be getting $20 to $30 million in regards to the overall dollars that are being dispersed to the state of Michigan. We're asking for 10 million. Just so that we can, like I said, lean into this and make sure that we're building the infrastructure for this to happen when the vaccines start to become online in a little bit more of a robust way. So that's really the essence of this resolution. We were thoughtful and proactive as a county in August, and we want to be thoughtful and proactive as we're in the middle of this pandemic as well. So the money is set aside for, like I said, vaccine distribution and operations, as well as testing, as well as tracing. And so those are the components. that we're looking to be able to get the funding for so that we can continue to move forward on this. And I'm not sure if Ms. Stafford or Mr. Hardesty want to add anything onto that.
Thank you. And any other comments from the health department or emergency operations?
I would say that I just wanted to say that we are supportive of Mr. Cavell's amendment. We worked very closely with the Board of Commissioners with a similar structure with the recovery grants and other grants that we did last year. And I think having the Board of Commissioners along with us as we're doing new contracts or extensions of existing contracts or contemplating has worked well during this pandemic. So we're supportive of that amendment.
Thank you. Any other discussion on the amendment? Commissioner Kuhn?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. A couple things. And in general, this is, sounds like a great approach. Those of us, and I think it's probably most of us, other than the new commissioners, who sat on these ad hoc committees throughout last year, I was on 3 or 4, know how beneficial and collegial and how important it was to get commission input into these things, along with, of course, the knowledge and expertise of the administration. Just because I think it's important to get as much input as possible and differing viewpoints, I would move to amend to add it to 2 members and 1 alternate representing the minority party. I propose that as an amendment to Mr. Cavell. Oh, wait, should I wait until after it's been passed and then move it after that, Madam Chair? Is that more appropriate?
Well, we'll vote on the
I'll wait until after Mr. Cavell, we vote on Mr. Cavell's amendment, and then I'll move to amend after that. I think that makes more sense logically. But I would like to say one other point, and that is this. Initially, when I sent these proposals into the to the staff, it included wherefore clause that says that that we shall reimburse the county as soon as possible. Apparently, the administration had a similar proposal in their initial language of this resolution. I'm sure everyone would like and expect that that our county funds would be reimbursed by federal funds that are given to us for the same purpose. I know that there were questions raised by the staff, which is why the administration's language was changed and why in my proposal that was deleted when it was sent to the board, to the committee this morning. But I know other commissioners, such as Commissioner Moss, who have been on state appropriations, feel that that kind of language would not be inappropriate to this resolution. I'm not going to bring it today. This goes to finance tomorrow, so I certainly would not be opposed to that kind of language being added if it's added by the Finance Committee tomorrow. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Nelson?
Thank you. I just wanted to say, Mr. Carlson, I appreciate the conversations that we have had in the past in regards to this. And I love the fact that we tweaked this to include those bi-weekly reports to commissioners on how the money was spent. So thank you.
Yeah, it is important to be informed.
Commissioner Nelson, if Commissioner Cavell's amendment passes, there will be monthly only.
So, okay, I'm glad that we're bringing this up. So then there's, from the way I saw it on the initial one, was that there's a biweekly report that would be sent out to all commissioners, and then there would be a monthly report that would go to the Finance Committee.
Correct, and Commissioner Cavell's amendment changes that.
So can Commissioner Cavell, could you share why that change?
Yeah. And good catch, Commissioner Nelson. So part of this comes from having conversations with Chair Woodward, who I think is also tuning in. But if we're going to have an ad hoc committee to help to what Director or Deputy Executive Carlson explained was going to be how we spend this $10 million, to have an ad hoc committee of 5 commissioners or 3 commissioners be a part of this, that there would be faster feedback loop because there would already be 3 commissioners a part of the conversation of how to spend that $10 million. So that instead of having to ask the executive to give biweekly updates, giving a monthly update, but then also having constant communication with the 3 other commissioners would be sufficient.
And what
was my understanding, but also, yeah.
And what is the expectation then of the commissioners who are on that ad hoc committee to relay the information to other commissioners?
Ooh, I don't think we wrote that down, and that's not part of that amendment, but I would imagine in caucus we could talk about it or adjust the amendment as you see fit.
Thank you.
Yeah, the spirit behind this too was just to make sure the commission was able to be part of the brain trust in helping spend that money because we're closer to the public in a lot of ways.
So at this point, I would like to see still the continuation of the bi-weekly reporting out to all commissioners. I absolutely agree with the amendment that Commissioner Cavallo is bringing forward. I would, though, just knowing how quickly things can change, I would like to see that commissioners still get that bi-weekly report in addition to obviously communication being had with the ad hoc members. What is the best way to go about it? Is that to offer an amendment?
Right. We have an amendment to the amendment.
Is there anyone from staff online?
Yeah. So, but as you said before, when Commissioner Kuhn said that we need to first vote on Commissioner Cavell's amendment and then make an amendment to the amendment.
But Commissioner
No,
Nelson has a
That's
like
backwards.
an amendment on.
Oh, it's backwards, sorry.
You need to vote on an amendment to an amendment before you vote on the amendment.
Okay.
It just makes sense.
Yeah.
So Commissioner Nelson needs support for her amendment.
Yeah, sure. Or yeah.
We need
All
to
right.
be clear on what the amendment is. I'm sorry. For the record, Madam Chair.
For the record, I would like to still have what is included in the initial resolution in regards to the be it further resolved clause, a bi-weekly report via email to all commissioners, all members of the Board of Commissioners. And then the rest of it is and a monthly report to the Public Health and Safety Committee to be provided on the county's financial response to the coronavirus 19 outbreak, including a description of amounts expended from the total of $10 million in appropriations referenced collectively, COVID-19 appropriations. It's the second, be it further resolved on the initial amendment.
And may I ask, I'm trying to remember my Boy Scout days of learning Robert's rules, so please forgive me, but is now an appropriate time to ask for discussion or question about the Commissioner Nelson's amendment to the amendment?
Yes.
Because I'd love to know what Chair Woodward or
You
Sean
made the
Carlson-
motion, you supported it, and now we will have is there any further discussion on amendment to the amendment and the amendment?
Okay.
The reasoning why I think it's important to still include that bi-weekly communication is we all know how quickly things can change. And in addition to, it can be difficult to touch base with commissioners outside of just a bi-weekly communication being sent out, I think would be very helpful. And in addition to, as Commissioner Cavallo has said, that, sure, there's still going to be some conversations shared with commissioners who are outside of the ad hoc committee, but just in good faith, just knowing how quickly things can change, it would be very helpful to have that bi-weekly email correspondence out to commissioners.
And may I ask a question or?
Commissioner Cavell, followed by Commissioner Woodward.
Thanks, Chair Loops. Yeah, I was just curious. I like the idea of what Commissioner Nelson's saying. Would just be interested to hear, since we have Deputy Executive Carlson here, if that would be too onerous for the executive's office, or if Chair Woodward has another insight into why that would be good or bad, if any.
Commissioner Woodward.
I'll let Deputy Executive, Carlson speak. An initial conversation around reporting, this was before the conversation of actually setting up an ad hoc committee to be able to review all of this. So given that, but I guess first thing I want to clarify that I think we were talking about twice a month. I don't think we mean bi-weekly, twice a week. I think we were talking every couple weeks. So I think that was the original conversation. So I think it's probably the word here is probably more bi-monthly rather than bi-weekly. But because we have, setting up this ad hoc committee, which was not part of that conversation, we could, it's my suggestion, in order to make certain the dollars wouldn't be expended out of these funds until action of that ad hoc committee. And I would have our board staff support that. And I think a better way is the communication of those minutes sent to all commissioners, because as dollars are released out of the 10 million that are approved by the ad hoc committee, communicating that to all commissioners, and just so there's a permanent record for this committee to receive on a monthly basis seems appropriate. To add another communication on top of that, I do think it's a little onerous and arguably may be confusing, because you'd have the action of the ad hoc committee. It may, frankly, it might meet only one time for a couple months until there's contracts or expenditure plans that come forward. As those meetings happen, those communications, because our staff will help support those, come to all commissioners as, I think as originally prescribed, to make sure that the feedback loop is tight. Also, we've got commissioners from both caucuses being able to address respective caucuses during caucus meetings on an ongoing basis. And so our meetings are roughly every 2 weeks or so. And we can make sure that feedback is brought and make it maybe part of the permanent agendas, particularly if that's what both caucuses want. So, so in terms of the reporting aspects, we'll have staff that can be able to communicate all of those things when those meetings happen and what is being, how dollars are being allocated. We've got our caucus meetings where we can have the ongoing conversations. And then we, of course, have this committee that receiving the formal report. So that was before there was no ad hoc committee and no commissioner input and oversight into the expenditure of these dollars. Now that I'm working with the administration and negotiating the creation of the ad hoc committee, I don't know if the bi-monthly report's necessary beyond, communicating what's been approved of these dollars, which is really what the intent was, to make sure that everyone knows, how are these dollars being spent on and how much is being spent on these services. So that's the rationale in working with the administration. And so, Sean, I think it's up to you if there's anything else you want to add to that.
Yeah, I think I would draw to Commissioner Nelson's comment in regards to communication twice a month. So perhaps there's a comprehensive and thorough report on a monthly basis, and at least posting of minutes and communication, the other time. So as long as the full board is getting that communication, we of course are always supportive of transparency, sharing that information, making sure that everybody's in the loop. So at least getting a communication out at one point in time of the month, and then a comprehensive report on the spending as well. So I think is fine, and hopefully that meets Commissioner Nelson's intent.
Thank you. So Commissioner Nelson, we have a motion and a second on the amendment to the amendment. Do you want to move forward with that? Or withdrawing that?
I would still like to move forward with having communication be sent out to commissioners every 2 weeks.
Is that, so that's bi-monthly or every 2 weeks are we listing?
Sorry, Commissioner Loops?
Is it bi-monthly, twice a month, or every 2 weeks?
So I was hoping to have it every 2 weeks, so twice a month as just an update. And it is completely understandable that there might not be a lot to report on. But I still find it valuable to make sure that commissioners are kept in the loop because things do change so quickly, especially right now.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Further discussion on the amendment to the amendment? Larry, roll call, please.
On the amendment to the amendment, Commissioners Jackson,
You're on
Commissioner
mute,
Jackson, you're
Jackson.
pass, please. Nelson,
Yes.
Cavell,
Yes.
Angel,
Yes.
Kuhn,
Yes.
Powell, are you here? Hoffman,
Yep.
Powell, are you here?
Here.
Carl's here now, and I'm a yes.
Oh, okay, there you are. Okay, sorry about that. So on the amendment to the amendment, Commissioner Powell?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Hoffman,
Yes.
McGillivray,
No.
Jackson,
Yes.
Loops,
And I want to clarify that this is a report twice a month. That's what we're voting on for the amendment, to the amendment.
twice a month, okay.
All right, then, yes, thank you. Yes,
Okay, and your vote is, yeah. Okay.
yes.
Madam Chair, you have 8 yeas and 1 nay.
All right, that motion, that amendment is approved. So now we're going to vote on Commissioner Cavell's amendment. Commissioner Kuhn?
Yes. Since the procedure is now that we do the amendments to amendments, I'm going to move that we change it to 2 members and 1 alternate representing the minority party on the board. Of the board, I'm sorry.
Okay. So 2 members and 1 alternate? Is that
Correct.
what you just said?
Correct.
All right, so we have a motion by Commissioner Kuhn for that. And we have support by Commissioner Hoffman. Is there any further discussion on this amendment? Commissioner Kuhn?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Again, this is $10 million. That's a huge amount of money. And all of us who have been on these ad hoc committees know that they're very collegial, and it does help and will be beneficial, I believe, to have 2 Republicans on this committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Cavell?
Thank you, Chair. I'm wondering, then Commissioner Kuhn, this means then that there would be 2 majority party, 2 minority party, and 2 executive people. So it'd be an ad hoc committee of 6 instead of 5?
Correct. And again, as we've seen, there's never any real, it's always consensus on these ad hoc committees. It's just a matter of bringing up ideas and suggestions that might not, be thought of by everyone. And given the size of this, the $10 million that are involved here, I think it's important to get to allow for the opportunity of other perspectives to be presented. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that.
Any other comments on this amendment, Commissioner Hoffman?
Yeah, I just want to say I agree with Commissioner Kuhn. This is not a political kind of ad hoc committee. I'm sure that we're going to all be on the same page, but I agree with him that sometimes if you have another person there, it just might bring up things that somebody else might not have thought about. And we're all on the same page in this. We all are looking at the same goal. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hoffman. Any other comments? All right, roll call on this particular amendment, which is changing the number of people on the ad hoc committee.
Commissioners Nelson,
Pass.
Cavell,
Yes. Yeah.
Vigil,
Yes.
Kuhn,
Yes.
Howell,
Pass.
Hoffman,
Yes.
McGillivray,
No.
Jackson,
No.
Nelson,
Yes.
Howell,
No.
Luke.
No.
Hey, Chris, you got a minute?
Okay, Madam Chair, you have 5 yeas and 4 nays.
Okay, so 5 yeas, 4 nays, that amendment is passed. So we voted on 2 amendments to the amendment. Now we go back to the original amendment. Correct? Great. So we're going to vote. Any other comments on the original amendment?
Could I ask if Chair Woodward, since he tuned in after I offered the amendment, if he would mind giving his 2 cents on my amendment, especially in light of all the amendments we've done to the amendment? If there's any parting thoughts for clarity?
Commissioner Woodward, is there anything you'd like to add?
We can't hear you, Dave.
There you go. Sorry about that. Turn the camera on, didn't do the other thing. I mean, I think it's, I mean, the $10 million that we are, putting forth, this is a proactive way to put things in place so that we can, best respond to the pandemic moving forward. I don't know, my preference would be to reconsider the vote that last amendment passed and keep it at the 2 majority, 1 minority. But we can discuss that further in future committees or, on the floor as well.
Thank you. Commissioner Nelson?
Can I rescind my vote?
I don't know. I don't.
Procedurally, you could move to reconsider. You can move to reconsider the vote since you were on the prevailing side.
So I'd like to move to reconsider my vote.
All right. Is there support for that? Supported by Commissioner Cavell. Is there any further discussion? Commissioner Ginzel?
I'm just trying to make sure I understand it. It's actually a motion to reconsider the amendment, which we'll then have to all re-vote on the amendment, which will supersede our original vote. That's what we're doing, I believe.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And again, it's the amendment of the number of people serving on the ad hoc committee. Commissioner Ginzel?
Yeah, I don't know if we can, so is there a second? I don't know if the amendment's on the floor. If there is, I'd just like to speak to it. There is a second, Pam?
We had a
Thank you.
motion and a second, yes.
Yes.
Got it. All right, so I guess my only comment would be when you look at committee structures, and to Commissioner Kuhn's point, if we look at history, generally these pandemic committees have been pretty unanimous in their support for things. And I know there's a battle about minority numbers and majority numbers. And, you know, if it's not 2-1 or some other faction, the world might end. But in the end, on this committee, with 2 majority, 2 minority, and 2 administrative members, it's essentially the ruling party has a 2-1 vote on this committee, even if you add an additional minority party. So to me, it may be much ado about nothing. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments on the revote on this? Commissioner Hoffman?
Yeah, I just want to say I agree, and maybe it wasn't clear to everybody, but everybody on this committee is a voting member. So the majority party basically has a 4-2 vote already. So I guess I'm not sure why we're reconsidering the vote, because Commissioner Nelson was on the prevailing side. I guess I don't, maybe she could explain it, because I'm not clear on this. You already have the votes. I mean, I guess, do we want to make it 4-1? I'm not sure what the motive is, or the rationale.
Thank you, Commissioner Hoffman. Any other comments? All right, roll call on the last amendment regarding the composition of the ad hoc committee. Oh, Commissioner.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Just a point of order. There's first a motion to reconsider that we have to vote on in order to bring the matter back onto the table. So I believe this is the motion to reconsider.
Thank you. You are correct. Thank you. Any other comments on this motion? All right, roll call, please.
On the motion to reconsider, Cavell,
Yes.
Angel? I'm sorry, again, you're muted. Okay, thank you. Kuhn,
No.
Powell,
Pass.
Hoffman,
No.
Gilray,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Loops,
Yes.
Madam Chair, you have 6 yeas and 3 nays.
All right, so that motion passed. So the motion to reconsider, so now we have we'll vote on the last amendment regarding the composition of the ad hoc committee. Is there any further conversation before the vote? A roll call, please.
We don't need another motion support to put it on the table again, right?
I don't think so.
Okay, Commissioners Gingell,
Yes.
Kuhn,
Yes.
Powell,
Pass.
Hoffman,
Yes.
Gilray,
Yes.
Jackson, Jackson,
You on mute. Yes.
thank you. Nelson,
To clarify, we're taking the vote on Commissioner Kuhn's amendment of the numbers of individuals, correct?
Correct.
I'd like to reverse my vote.
Madam Chairman,
Yes.
I would like to change my vote as well. I misunderstood it.
Nelson,
No.
Cavell,
No.
Powell,
No.
Loops.
No.
Madam Chair, you have 3 yeas and 6 nays.
Okay, so that amendment is passed. So now we move back to the original amendment by Commissioner Cavell. Is there any further discussion on the original amendment? Roll call, please.
Madam Chair,
Oh, Commissioner Gilvery?
can we have Pam read back what we're voting on here?
Yes.
Just a point of clarification, the last vote was 3 yeas, 6 nays, so that one failed. That was on the Kuhn amendment, correct? That was reconsidered?
Yes.
Correct.
But you're back to the amendment as amended by Commissioner Nelson's first amendment.
Thank you.
Final passage on that amendment.
Okay. Commissioner McGillivray,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Nelson, Nelson,
Yes.
Cavell,
Yes.
Angel,
Yes.
Kuhn,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Hoffman,
Yes.
Loops.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you have 9 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. That motion is carried. Now, is there anything left on the amendment list to vote on now?
If Commissioner Kuhn decides to move forward his amendment.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
Now it'd be the resolution as amended.
Unless there is another amendment to the resolution as amended.
Correct. Oh, that's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're back on the resolution.
Okay, thank you. Any other conversation on this resolution?
Oh,
Commissioner Cavell?
I just want to say to Sean and Chair Woodward and everyone here, thanks for helping me learn about how to pass my first motion and amendment. I know it's kind of messy and sticky, but I appreciate y'all being a part of the process, and I appreciate Commissioner Kuhn's input and Commissioner Gingell with the planning beforehand. So I appreciate y'all.
Thank you. Anything else? All right, roll call, please.
On the resolution as amended, Commissioners Hoffman,
Yes.
Gilray,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Cavell,
Yes.
Angel,
Yes.
Kuhn,
No.
Powell,
Yes.
Loops.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you have 8 yeas, 1 nay.
All right, thank you. That motion is carried. Another good lesson for us on how everybody's opinion counts in the process of amendments and the time required in that area. Commissioner Nelson?
Madam Chair, I thought you did a fabulous job because it did get a little tricky and I know that it was difficult for me to follow along. So I appreciate your leadership through that. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Okay. We are moving on to our next item then. From Health and Human Services, Health Division, Homeless Blueprint 2021 Grant Agreement. So I need a motion. Motion by Commissioner McGill, support from Commissioner, who would like to support Commissioner Gingell. Are there any amendments to this item? All right, so we have
Commissioner Kuhn raised his hand.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see Commissioner Kuhn. Yes, Commissioner Kuhn.
Madam Chair, I believe everyone has the proposed amendments. You want me to read them?
One moment. Barbara, are you able to put that up on the screen?
Sure, doing right now.
And yes, Commissioner Kuhn, would you like to talk about the amendment?
Sure. If as long as we get a second, I'm willing to talk about it as soon as we get a second. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Sure. Oh, 1 second. Oh, seconded by Commissioner Hoffman.
Right. Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, and I appreciate getting this information. It's helpful when we get, as we've seen with the prior item on our agenda, when we get the information in a timely manner, it allows us to look at it thoroughly and provide input and suggestions. Here the issue is twofold. First, in the actual grant language, there's no detail on this plan. So what I am suggesting that once a written plan is developed by the administration, that it come back to this committee for review and approval. The other aspect of it is, according to the grant language, it is expected that the $250,000 will be used for consulting services. And I'm suggesting that prior to approving a contract, again, that information about either the RFP and or approved contractor be provided to this committee. That's my amendment, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Oh, let's see. I'm sorry, jumping back from screen to screen so I can see everything. All right, is there any further discussion on this amendment? Does this include addressing the unique needs of the children of the homelessness in schools?
Madam Chair, if you're talking about this particular amendment, I didn't see much detail in the grant application, so I can't answer that. Maybe Leanne Stafford can respond to that, or someone from the administration.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was going to recommend, let the administration explain what this does. And then on the amendment, I can give, I have heard from the administration, I'll relay back to the full group, the administration's position on that last amendment. But if I'll go off camera.
Thank you. Leanne?
Actually, Shane Baz is actually going to present this item, so he is on and ready to present.
Thank you. Welcome, Shane.
Thank you. This is funding that came to us from the state of Michigan to put together a blueprint to help end homelessness in Oakland County. And this was funding that originally was allocated to us in 2019, got put on hold due to the troubles with the pandemic and the state level budget. And they reapproved it again for us to use for this particular year. And so what we're looking to do is we're looking to bring in a consultant, a contractor that has a capacity to work with the various stakeholders in Oakland County to put together actionable and sustainable plan to help end homelessness in Oakland County. And those two words are really important because we don't want to just get together to talk about it, but we want to get together and determine what are some actionable items that we can put in place. And also this funding does end at the end of September, and it can't be carried over since it's already been carried over one time. And so we want to have that plan be sustainable with the entities that are already working on the issue, whether it's HOPE, Community Housing Network, Lighthouse, Alliance for Housing in Oakland County, and our Neighborhood and Housing Development Division. We want to make sure that plan is sustainable, that we can continue to move forward those actionable items. And so that's what we're looking to do right now. If you look at the fourth whereas in the miscellaneous resolution, those are the items that minimally the contractor needs to help us put together in the plan. There are some other things that we've asked that, we prefer that they look at and put in the plan in the RFP. But those are minimally what is required for us to meet to receive the funding. So that, in a nutshell, is what we're looking to do here.
Thank you. Commissioner Cavell?
Thank you, Chair. Hi, Shane.
Hey, Charlie.
I'm emailing with you. This you're saying is, if I was understanding correctly, to help build out a broader, holistic Oakland County homelessness plan.
Absolutely, and I'm not fully aware of all the history about the funding coming to us. However, I do know that it was based on putting together something similar to Washtenaw County's blueprint, and if you look at that one, it is really the best standard. As far as here's this item. Here's who would be responsible for it, and here's a reasonable timeline to accomplish that item. And it's, like you said, it's not just what can the county do, but what can all the various service agencies working with the county kind of synergizing off of each other, not working in silos, and making sure that that's in a blueprint that the whole community can kind of work off of.
Okay. And does that also, to what Chair Lube said earlier, does that include children in this blue schema?
Actually, yes. So one of the additional bullet points that we added in the something we would prefer them to coordinate on is come up with some ideas for some permanent supportive housing prioritizing youth and families who are experiencing homelessness. Absolutely.
And if I could ask just one last quick thing, thank you, Chair. When you're putting out this blueprint for RFP, is it going to go towards to a consulting firm? Is it going to go to a nonprofit? Is it going to go to a university? What kind of scope are you looking at?
I'm looking really at all three of those. I can see a model where one or two of those entities could partner and put in a RFP together, where one of those entities could put in an application and then have on their team certain people from a couple of those other entities. One of the criteria that we put in the RFP isn't basically final draft format right now, is we want to make sure that whatever entity or entities are applying has the administrative capacity to do this, because some delays in getting things through MDHHS to get the funding grant acceptance to you is unfortunately delayed. And so we do need an entity that has the capacity for a fairly quick turnaround to bring together a lot of different members in the community to give input into the blueprint and put that together by the end of the fiscal year.
Madam Chair, may I make a comment?
Of course.
I just wanted to speak in regards to the amendment that's before. I just want to remind the commissioners that there's already a rule in place in regards to any personal service contracts. So this particular item would be a personal service contract. If the RFP goes out and the personal service are greater than 250, it has to go before the Board of Commissioners, since it was not a contract that was contemplated during the last budget cycle. That parameter is already in place in the Board of Commissioners. So I believe that the amendment that's being offered, the spirit of that is already obtained with the existing rules and policies that are in place from the county. So I feel like it's unnecessary, and the administration should be able to move forward if the grant is approved with putting the RFP out.
Thank you. Commissioner Hoffman?
Okay, and thank you, Sean. But you mentioned that if it's over 250,000, this is not to exceed 250,000, so it could very well be less than 250,000. So what happens then? I support the resolution, and I think the amendment is just good government. It should come back to this committee. So if I'm missing something here, please tell me what that is. But it says up to or funding in the amount of 250,000.
I'm just letting you know that, sometimes you can put a not to exceed out there. You don't know what the market is going to provide. So, the RFP has not been drafted. I'm just letting you know what the existing rules are.
Right, but again, excuse me. But again, if it ends up being less than 250,000, it doesn't come back to the Board of Commissioners of the committee. I just think it's good government, and all of us should have an opportunity to review that plan and see what we're spending the money on.
Thank you. Mr. Chair Woodward?
Yeah, and I think the Deputy Executive Carlson spoke to this. So if I may make a recommendation for the committee and through you, Madam Chair, to reject this amendment at this moment, and you and other members of the committee can be working with the administration to see if there is some acceptable language, but to advance this proposal. But my recommendation is that we don't adopt this amendment right now. And if there is around the plan back for review, we can have that conversation. But I also want to be respectful of the policies of the board that we've adopted. So we can work on, we explore additional language going forward.
Thank you. Commissioner Gingell?
Yeah, since Chairman Woodward's on, maybe he can refresh my memory. Didn't we adopt a policy at the board in the last term that any contract over $50,000 has to come to the Board of Commissioners for approval?
Madam Chair, but to answer that, Deputy Executive Carlson was talking to it. It was over 250,000. So I think we adopted a policy in the budget last time that we adopted. And that was dealt with, but we adopted a separate policy on how we will for professional contracts above $250,000, and that's what Deputy Executive Carlson was talking about. And that was a compromise in working with the administration. Obviously we can always revisit those policies, but that's the policy that's in place right now.
Thank you. Commissioner Gingell?
Yeah, for humor, and please take it as humor, but going back in memory, when the majority party was the minority party, I think the request was for any contract over $25,000 from the previous administration to be brought before the board. So I just think it's humorous, and I guess it's trivial outside of that, but I think money being spent in upwards of up to $250,000 should have more visibility. That's just my opinion.
Thank you.
And to address that humorously, having battled this issue with my good colleague Commissioner Gingell. As a board, that we negotiate with the administration and landed on a policy that's in place, which is more oversight than the board's ever had. And if we want to revisit that, we certainly can. But at this juncture, that we have a policy in place. If we want to, in order to be able to advance this proposal, we've got the funding to be able to do good things to address homelessness. Let's do that in between now and the board meeting to see if there can be additional conversations on how to address some of the points we raised right now. Humorously.
Thank you. Any other comments regarding the amendment? All right, roll call, please.
On the amendment, Commissioners Powell,
Yes.
Hoffman,
Yes.
McGillivray,
No.
Jackson,
No.
Nelson,
No.
Cavell,
No.
Gingell,
Yes.
Kuhn,
Yes.
Powell, Powell, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I'm the last one.
Before the chair.
Yes.
Loops?
No.
Okay, Madam Chair, you have 4 yeas and 5 nays.
4 yeas, 5 nays. The amendment is not carried forward. We are back to our original Homeless Blueprint 2021 grant amendment or grant agreement. Any other comments on this item? Roll call, please.
On item number 3, Commissioners Kuhn,
No.
Howell,
Pass.
Hoffman,
No.
Gilray,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Cavell,
Yes.
Angel,
Yes.
Howell,
Yes.
Loops.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you have 7 yeas and 2 nays.
All right, motion carries. Thank you, Shane. Thank you, Leanne. Our next item is from the Sheriff's Office, the Special Weapons and Tactics Team SWAT Interlocal Agreement Amendment. I have a motion by Commissioner McGilvery, support from Commissioner Nelson. And we have, who do we have here to speak to this? Did I see Gaia? Oh, yes.
Yep, the undersheriff's here and I'm here.
Thank you. Anything you'd like to add about this?
Actually, I think the undersheriff was going to speak to it, but.
I think he just, I think he had, yeah, I saw him, but he left. So.
Okay, I can go ahead. So basically, a few years ago, we brought a resolution to the board to add, I guess the South End SWAT team was disbanding and they requested to be part of our team. At the time, they were each putting in $2,500, for their own units. So that's what they volunteered, or that's what they agreed to do when we took them on. Since then, we've had other people join, and basically we're looking at it that we didn't want to deter anybody from participating and having a participation fee. So we're just redoing the interlocal agreement to remove that, to encourage others to join the regional team.
Thank you. So right now we have Berkeley, Hazel Park, Ferndale, Madison Heights, Huntington Woods, Royal Oak, Beverly Hills, Farmington Hills, and Oak Park in this program. Are there other cities or townships who are interested at this time? Are you aware of?
I'm not aware of specific agencies that are interested, but I think, obviously we respond to everyone in Oakland County. But like I said, we didn't want to deter anybody from being able to participate or join in the future. So,
Madam Chair, it's Mike McCabe. Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
I don't know what happened. I lost my connection, so I just dialed in. Real quick, I know Gail covered it. The bottom line is this, is that we don't see a reason to have people pay a fee to participate in a county-wide function. So these agencies, as Gail said previously, when they had the South Oakland SWAT team, all put that amount of money into to the benefit of their teams. We are picking up the cost of all the equipment. The sheriff does not feel it's appropriate to charge somebody to be part of a county-wide function. So we'll eat this in our budget for now, and we're proposing that you approve this so that we can make everybody equal. They are part of our county-wide SWAT team. We just had a call out last week that they all participated in, so it's a good thing, and we're asking for your approval on this. There are multiple members from the sheriff's office that are members of our SWAT team. We're well over 35 people, maybe pushing 40 in the team now.
Thank you. Any questions or comments regarding this item? Commissioner Cavell?
Yeah, forgive me for not asking this before, Gaia and Under Sheriff McCabe. I tried to email y'all before the meeting, but just reading through this again, something dawned on me. Having had conversations with the executive's office, they're trying to push getting more departments to join in on Clemis on that dashboard, and they're willing to sponsor people or sponsor departments for 1 year. Is there any, and the cost is about equal to what the cost of membership on the SWAT is with Oakland County Sheriff Department. Is there any way to either talk about that further or table this resolution for now to then?
No, sir, that's a separate issue. That's a separate issue, and the county's actually picking up the cost for all the participants within Oakland County on that front. So that one has nothing to do with the other, and the county is picking up the cost on the transparency.
Okay. Thanks.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions or comments? Roll call, please.
On item number 4, Commissioners Hoffman,
Yes.
Gilbride,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Cavell,
Yes.
Gingell,
Yes.
Kuhn,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Lubes.
Yes,
Madam Chair, you have 9 yeas, 0 nays.
motion carries. All right.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, last item on our regular agenda is a presentation from the Animal Shelter and Pet Adoption Center. This was a request by Commissioner Kuhn following our last meeting and inquiries about how COVID-19 was affecting the animal shelter. I know at this time, the animal shelter is undergoing an assessment of the facilities, and we're probably about in the middle of that assessment. So we have, looks like Joni Toole and Bob Gatt here for the presentation. So if there's nothing to file, we don't need a motion on this. If you have
Okay, so there's, okay, thank you.
to us, then we'll receive and file. So welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. Yes, Bob Gatt and Joni Toole are here. Just to clarify, the assessment, the outside assessment has not started yet. The assessor was supposed to come in the first week in February, but because of COVID, she's delayed that till sometime in March now. So we have not begun that outside assessment yet. But to give you a rundown on how COVID has affected our shelter, I'm going to start with the positive and just tell you that Joni and I are so very proud of the staff here, the entire staff. We haven't missed a day of work since March, not one day of work. And in fact, many employees have worked 7 days a week during this COVID crisis, doing the things necessary to keep this shelter running. The live release rate for a shelter is probably the best measure of a success. And for 2020, our live, which incorporated 9 months of COVID, right? Our live release rate was 92% for cats and rounded out to be 90% for dogs. And ladies and gentlemen, in an open admission shelter, those are phenomenal numbers, and we're very proud of that. It's a reflection of the dedication and the commitment by our staff to the animals, and we certainly hope that you're proud of that number too. Our intake rate dropped about 25% during COVID. We're down from a normal range of 4,000 animals a year to just over 3,000 last year. Our revenue dropped correspondingly, mainly because our license sales were depleted. This is due to a number of factors. The veterinary offices were not open. Dogs who get vaccinations, it's required by law that the vaccinations are performed by a DVM. They were not available. Also working with the board, last summer, all delinquent fees on licenses were waived, and the legally mandated census that we normally hold in the field was held by way of phone last year instead of going out. And putting all those factors together, our revenue was down over $50,000. Our road officers responded to less calls, dropping from over 6,000 per year in a normal year to just over 4,500 last year. We, as the administrators, did everything we could to protect our workers by allowing them to take many calls over the phone whenever possible, and of course, supplying them with all the PPE that they required. During COVID, our shelter moved to an appointment-only routine, which I have to report is working wonderfully. In fact, Joni and I have talked many times. We hope that even after COVID has left our world, that the shelter remains on an appointment-only basis. What it does is it gives the staff the opportunity to spend one-on-one time with potential adopters or people looking. It's a much more efficient manner of work, and it's something that is probably best practices in the shelter.
Wednesday.
I'll go on. The cleaning the shelter was much more difficult since COVID. Prior to COVID, as you all know, the Oakland County Sheriff Office sent 12 Oakland County inmates every day, 7 days a week, to clean the shelter and help with the duties here. For the first 9 months after COVID hit, the cleaning was handled by a dual force of a cleaning company named Sabre, which was contracted by the county, and our staff also kicked in. That's why many of them work 7 days a week, long hours, helping keep our shelter clean. However, in November of last year, Sabre took over complete cleaning duties, and they're doing a terrific job, and we're very, very grateful to you and the county for supplying them. All the numbers are down as a result of COVID, the number of visitors, the number of volunteers, and as I said, the number of intakes are down. However, overall, the mood and demeanor of the staff is great, positive. Everybody who works here loves working here. We're very proud of the work that we do, and we hope that you're proud of us too. Joni, did I miss anything?
No, that's it.
Happy to answer any questions.
Commissioner Gershenson?
Well, thank you, Mr. Gatt and Joni. I just wanted to make a point that the assessment has started. They have not come to the animal shelter, but they've been working and talking to Joni. I'm not sure, Mr. Gatt, if you've been involved, right. But they've commented on how grateful they are for your cooperation. But the part of the assessment that has been delayed is just the actual physical visit to the shelter, which will happen in March. But they have been talking to numerous stakeholders over the last few months to present us with a really solid assessment report. So thank you for all the work you've done during this COVID. You've done a great job.
Thank you, Commissioner, and you're exactly right. Joni has been working daily with the assessor, both on the phone and via email, and I know they've reached out to several of our stakeholders too. So it is underway, just not physically in our building yet.
Thank you. Any comments or questions regarding the Animal Shelter Center and what's happening with COVID? So thank you for the report, the update. We're glad to see that we're taking care of what we need to do, and sounds like going above and beyond most every day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any comments or questions? Okay. All right. Is there any other business to come before this committee? Seeing none, I will adjourn. Without any objection, this meeting is adjourned at 12:22. Thank you, everybody.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
Have a good day, everybody.